Welcome back, warriors. Kwe Tansei Sego. Hi, my name is Pam Palmer, and welcome to my YouTube channel where we focus on educating the resistance and inspiring the next generation of warriors to help us save our peoples and the planet. This week's video is a difficult one. George Floyd was a 46-year-old black man, a family man, an athlete, and a father. He was killed by a white police officer while other police officers looked on. Breonna Taylor was a 26-year-old black woman, an EMT, who was shot and killed by police in her own home. Their senseless deaths are just two of the thousands of black people killed by police officers in the United States. Stay tuned to learn more about how this is not about a few bad apples in police forces, but is in fact a widespread racism and hatred. George Floyd was an unarmed black man who told police he couldn't breathe while white officer Derek Chauvin kneeled on his neck for more than 8 minutes until he died. 6 years ago, Garner, another young black man, uttered those same words, "I can't breathe," to white police officer Daniel Pantaleo, who used a chokehold on Garner, causing his death. Neither man was engaged in acts threatening the lives of citizens or police officers. Neither of the men had guns or knives pointed at or used on the police officers. It is clear that both men died at the hands of police because they were black. Anti-black racism by police has killed thousands of black people in the United States. In fact, statistics show that death by cop is the #1 cause of death for young men in the United States. So we know that violence generally in policing is a growing problem. But when you look at the statistics for black people, you can see a very clear racial element. According to the data from 2015 to 2019, black people were more than 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people. And black people are 1.3 times more likely to be unarmed when they're shot by police than white people. What is worse is that police officers are able to continue to kill black people with relative impunity, meaning they are less likely to lose their jobs or be convicted of murdering the people that they kill. The ACLU reports that over a 10-year period between 2005 and 2015, of the thousands of police-involved killings of people, only 54 officers were ever charged, and the majority of those 54 officers were either cleared or acquitted. The Washington Post did an extensive analysis and found that the majority of those police officers charged with killing people were mostly white, and the majority of those that were killed were mostly black. But the injustice isn't just at the level of policing. The Post also found that most of the time, prosecutors don't press charges against police officers even if they strongly suspect the officers committed a crime. The same research also shows that jurors are reluctant to punish police officers, and thus the very few police officers who have been convicted can sometimes get as little as a few weeks in jail. So racism doesn't only infect the police, but also prosecutors, juries, and society as a whole. Why else would white men feel that they could kill an unarmed black man, Ahmaud Armbery, while jogging down the street? Although police anti-black racism results in the deaths of hundreds of black people in the United States every year, those numbers don't take into account the widespread racial profiling, over-arresting, overcharging, and other forms of violence against black people by the police. And Canadians don't get to rest easy either. Anti-black racism by police in Canada is also a big problem, from racial profiling and carding to similar over-incarceration and deaths of black people by police officers. Police racism is as Canadian as it is American. CBC did an extensive investigation into fatal encounters with police in Canada over a 17-year period from 2000 to 2017 and found a similar trend of impunity for police officers. Of the 461 cases they looked at, only 18 officers were ever charged and only 2 convicted to date. Although black people make up only 2.8% of the population in Canada, they were 9% of the fatalities, 3 times higher than their population. But in places like Ontario, it's 4 times the percentage of their population. According to the Ontario Human Rights Commission in Toronto, black people make up 70% of those shot and killed by police. Police racism is clearly killing black people in Canada as well. Police anti-black racism in both Canada and the United States is lethal, and we owe our brothers and sisters more than a tweet or a hashtag or a heartfelt comment on Facebook. Our fellow human beings are dying. They're literally mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, and community leaders dying simply because they're black. So, why am I using my YouTube channel dedicated to the sovereign Native nations to talk about this? Because settler governments and racist segments in society are committing these violent acts on our territories, and many Canadians and Americans are remaining silent about it. We are the guardians of Turtle Island that now includes what is now known as Canada and the United States. And we also have a legal obligation, according to our own traditional native laws, customs, practices, and sovereign governing structures, to stand up when human rights are being violated on our territories. And we are right there with our black brothers and sisters. We may have different histories, cultures, and experiences, but we also share in the pain and trauma that is anti-black and anti-Indigenous racism, hatred, and violence. And don't forget, Black Lives Matter, black student groups, and communities all stood beside us in solidarity when we were Idle No More, Justice for Colton Boushie, Justice for Tina Fontaine, and Wet'suwet'en Strong. It is important that we stand in solidarity now with Black Lives Matter. Yes, our Native peoples have suffered centuries of genocide, which continue today. Native people are also racially profiled, physically and sexually abused, and killed by the police simply because we're Indigenous. I have done articles and videos on police racism, violence, and the killing of Native peoples, and will do so again. But today, I stand with our black brothers and sisters all over Turtle Island to lift up their experiences and their voices. We stand with them in their pain and mourning for their lost loved ones, and we stand with them in their demands for accountability and justice. Now is not the time for White Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, or to perpetuate the erasure of Black Lives Matter. This is also not the time for allies to tell black communities how they should react. They are entitled to their pain, their grief, their anger, and their frustration, and they are also entitled to take to the streets and demand justice. It is not for any of us to analyze where, when, or how they should protest. We should be so thankful to see the streets filled with thousands of people. Black Lives Matter. They are showing us that black people are loved and their lives matter, and in so doing show us all that there is still humanity in this world. Their feet on the street is love in action, and they don't do this lightly. They risk their lives by showing up and speaking out, but they do it to stop more loss of life. Social justice doesn't exist because of a law or a policy. Social justice is a state of being that we must always assert, live, and defend, or we lose it. We must all do our part to demand social justice because silence allows it to continue. We have the collective power to use our own skills, abilities, power, influence, or resources to call out this violence, demand justice, and hold both governments and police forces to account. Every protest, letter, phone call, report, donation, or other act of advocacy makes a huge difference, even if you don't personally see it right away. We need to stand united against police racism and lethal violence. Black Lives Matter. Demand justice for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner, Michael Brown Jr., Duane Christian, Andrew Loku, Jermaine Carby, and Desmond Campbell. If Black people can't breathe, none of us can. Thank you for watching my channel. I hope you will all figure out your role in ending the violence and take steps to demand justice. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing, commenting, and sharing these videos with your family, friends, colleagues, and social justice allies. And if you want additional resources, you can check out my website at www.pampalmater.com, and I'll post some links to Black Lives Matter and other resources for your information. I wish you all health, safety, and shelter for you, your families, and nations during this pandemic. And my condolences and commitment to take solidarity action to all the families who have lost loved ones. Till next time, stay alert, warriors.